Hello. Well, behind me I have Hodson's Mill, or that's what most people know it as, in Robertsbridge. And it's very well known to the urban explorer types. Now I'm going to go and have a look round. I'm not going in the building. Just a warning to anybody that thinks about doing it. Most of the floors are wooden, the staircases are wooden, and it's all very rotten now. I'm basically going to walk around the site. Most of the old buildings are gone now, but it's an area that I actually know very well. Where I'm standing right now was the location of my house when I was a child. When we moved here, I was only a baby, and we moved out when I was about 11. So some of the memories might be a bit sketchy because I was only little. But I'm going to try and find an easy way in, and I'll have a walk around the site and see what I can remember. Right, we're in. That's where I was filming from, the other side of that fence. That grass, that's where my house was. And this was one of the main yards. And I think what I'll do is walk down that way towards the road and work my way across the site, starting at the bottom. Right, starting down by the main gates, first thing you see on the right is this big patch of concrete. This was the office block. Nothing fancy, single story, almost sort of prefab looking, you know, nothing over exciting at all. And right on this edge here there was a little building where the guy who operated the weighbridge was located, and can't really make it out, but there's an edge line there. Looks like it's been filled in now, but the weighbridge was there for weighing the trucks when they came in and out with the raw materials or the finished product, because it was an animal food mill. Well, it was when I was here. Originally a flour mill, and then they went into making animal foods and things like that at a later date. But yeah, so this is the first thing you see. This is all the yard for the trucks coming in and out. The big mill pond is there, although it's so overgrown now you can't see it, because originally it was a flour mill driven by water wheels. It has got its own, almost like a mini canal, the other side of it, that was dug to power the water wheels. As a kid I can remember the wheels, well, at least the metalwork, still being there. Obviously not turning because it was all electric by then. But yeah, this is the office block. And behind the office block, if I remember right, there was a bit of parking here for the people who worked in the office. And the next bit, where it's raised up there, this was a medium sort of sized warehouse, and I think it was a fertilizer store from memory. It's got these very solid looking low walls, because that was floor level inside the warehouse, and you can still see some of the bolts here, there and there, because they had bumpers along there, and that was so the trucks could back up to it, and then you know, pallets of stuff could be wheeled in and out of trucks straight out at floor level. So that was a fertilizer store. That was a road up round the back of the main warehouse. There was a sort of a road right round the site. This was actually where I learnt to drive as a kid, because of course it was all closed up over the weekends. We lived on site, so I could drive Dad's car around. There was another big sort of factory section here for making the animal food, all been demolished now. And it went right out to about there. There was a narrow sort of roadway here, just about wide enough to get a truck through, and it was actually roofed between the two buildings. You was undercover when you was there. If I remember right, this was called the flaking plant. And it's basically where they took corn and crushed it into what I can only describe as it looked like cornflakes to go into the food. I think you still see it in like rabbit and guinea pig food sometimes, cornflake sort of pieces. Basically that's what that building was doing when I was here. And this side, was making the more like pellets that you see, the food pellets. And up behind it, there was a massive warehouse. I don't know if there's any sign of that anymore. I'll have a wander up a bit further and have a look. It's all coming back to me in bits and pieces now. On the end of what was the production sort of building there, this bit here was a 2-storey office block. And they had a laboratory and so on for testing animal foods in there, and also any grain that they bought in from local farmers. It was like tested for moisture and content and that sort of thing before they was allowed to tip it. So yeah, there was a 2-storey office block there. It went up to about here, the actual sort of office part of it, and then this bit was like a toilets and a shower block. Because from my bedroom window, I sort of looked out on this, because my bedroom window would have been roughly lined up with that right hand gate post. So I looked across this yard from my bedroom. This old place here with the big sliding doors looks like a barn. It was actually the HGV workshop when I was a kid, when I was living here. Because they had their own fleet of trucks. It was about 15-20 trucks that worked out of this site, one of which was what my father used to drive. So yeah, I remember a guy called Albert, who was the mechanic, very nice guy. Used to work there, doing the servicing and so on. And this old, almost like an old oast house type building, this was another workshop, but this was more what can I say, engineering type stuff to do with the mill. So if they had a electric motor needs fixing, or brackets built for a new piece of machinery, all that sort of work was done in this building. Obviously can't get into any of them now. Looks like they've all been recently sealed up. So yeah, that was the sort of like the engineering workshop. And this very old oast house piece at the side. I can remember all the raw materials, metal wise, girders and stuff being laid in racks through there. And Albert the mechanic, he used to do up vintage tractors and so on, and every now and again there'd be one of his old vintage tractors parked in there. It's all starting to sort of flood back to me now I'm thinking about it. There was another big building here, and I can't remember what on earth that did. I remember it being sort of 2-sided buildings left and right, but one big roof over the top with doors either end, and you could drive right through when they're open, but I don't remember its purpose. That funny looking little dip in the ground there where that tree's growing, that's actually a drain, because this was the area for washing the trucks off when they was filthy. There used to be a cabinet here. Looks like the old switch works still there for it. Yeah, this was where the jet wash was. You just about to see the old drain there for washing the trucks off. Let's just have a wander down here. I'm sort of on the road now when you drove around, and this was one big warehouse. When the place closed, all the modern warehousing, because of how it's put together, they was able to disassemble it and sell it. So that's why most of the buildings have gone. Looks funny looking at it like this now. It really does. I think go back, 40 years, and I was in here, and Dad taught me how to drive a forklift. Totally unofficially, of course. I don't know what that's all about. Okay, well, at least they've got a rubbish bin, I suppose. Oh, it's weird coming back here. Very weird. Shame you can't get inside the old mill building anymore. Although it is extremely dangerous. As I said, I wouldn't recommend anybody, even if they can find a way in, going in there. It's really rotted out. It's been closed for 20 plus years now, all the weather getting in on it. I can remember as a kid, somewhere in that building, there was like a metal helter-skelter, and it was for putting bags of like the animal food or whatever onto this thing, and it would go down the chute down to the ground floor. And I remember being allowed to get in there as a kid and have a slide on it many years ago. Right, have a wander at the top. There was another big building on this spot, but for the life of me I can't remember what was in there. I really can't. Just walking up the slope from where the truck washing area was, because I remember this bit actually being done when they sort of improved this road. You can see where it's concrete one side and like the herringbone brick put in. I remember them putting in this section because they built a new workshop. When the trucks got larger and larger and couldn't be serviced properly in that bottom workshop, I did a big purpose-built one up here, massive thing with huge lifts, able to lift the whole truck up to work underneath it and that sort of thing. No need for a pit. And it's actually the workshops where, in my last year at school, I did my week's works experience, because I wanted to be a mechanic. And of course my dad had the connections, so we swung it that I did my works experience here. Again, they've taken the whole building, taking it down. Still make out the road. I'm on the road at the moment. But on this site would have been where I did my works experience, doing oil changes on trucks and having the oil pour up my sleeve, and also changing truck tyres with a sledgehammer and 4-foot tyre levers. One of the toughest things I've ever done. Right, yeah, this would have been the new workshop. And I remember many years ago, obviously now, but a truck being out in this yard, and for whatever reason it had been in, whether that was its fault, I don't know, but its brakes failed somehow. or it moved or whatever. I can't remember, but I remember being told about it. And the truck went over this bank. I don't think it ended up in the water, but it ended up down there. Big, 30-ton 8-wheeler. I bet that was fun and games getting that back out. Site looks so different without the buildings. One other thing I want to check out. I remember as a kid, sort of over the top there somewhere, there being a World War II pillbox. I don't know whether, well, it's bound to be still there. They're too difficult to knock down, but whether you can still see it, I'll go and have a look. Yep, it's still here. I suppose it's a relatively strategic position, not that you can see now because it's all overgrown so much. But what was the main A21, London to Hastings Road, is there. In war times, I suppose the mill could have been turned back to food, human food production. And just the other side of the buildings is actually the railway, again, London to the coast. So there's a few things to protect, so I suppose that's one of the reasons why that might have been here. But I can tell you a little funny story about this. The old mill had several mill cats. They were sort of semi-wild, and they were just there for keeping the the mice and rats down, obviously, because there was a lot of food about. And one of these wild mill cats had kittens, and she had her kittens in there. And I wanted a cat, but my old man, being tight, wouldn't get one. So he actually came up here when they were old enough, and he stole one of the kittens off her, brought it home, and that's how I ended up with my first cat. And he really was a half-wild, miserable bastard as well. I know what it's like in here. Pretty minging, I should think. There's a lot of old crap in there. I don't know if you can get round to the door the other side. It's probably, have a think, over 40 years since I've been in there. So I doubt it. It looks a tad overgrown. Nope, I'm not climbing through that lot. Just have a look inside. It didn't look very pleasant in there anyway. I could go in through the front window, but I'm not that enthusiastic about it. Let's get back on terra firma.